Hello, I am back. This is a continuation part 1, which I posted before this. I'll make one thing perfectly clear. There's one comment which was about too much of communist bias out of the first part. Does it matter to me? No. Because I was not intending to be unbiased in that aspect. I was unbiased instead in getting things factually correct and out there and accurate to reality. So that's one thing. And also thank you, the subscriber who came in between now and then. Thank you very much for subscribing. I hope you're watching this today. And with that, I might get to the base thing and actually describe the content for today. There's some interesting... As for content for today, yes. There's some very interesting stuff I found about Chinese Christians. They did some interesting commentary in general. Then there's stuff about laws, which I'll be covering the 2005 reforms and the 2017 reforms. There's also some little side points here and there. So I found something from a Communist Party official who said some interesting comments about it in 2001 as well. So that's all good shit. Yeah. It's basically about laws and stuff like that. So it's an interesting sub-point which will lead up to the part which will be coming up, which will be talking about the claims of persecution in the first place. And as for why that's separate, there's some complications between everything. Those complications will be important because it links to some of the concepts I cover in this video now, which will be under the 2017 regulations. Chinese Christian advocates even admit, in many ways, it will always be difficult to identify change in China that will be directly attributed to Christianity and its influence. This is true in other parts of the world, where the forces of Christendom and those of Westernization may nearly go indistinguishable. Other forces will be undoubtedly receiving the credit for positive change that may improve the lives of Christianity may always be a minority in movement in China, but it will be like the leaven on the meal that which has a strength beyond its weight, like the kingdom of God itself. Detectable only to those who anticipate its arrival. This is from a 2010 article from the website China Source, which talks about Christianity in China. I'll be using next a more updated thing from them, but I will say one thing that's written above here. A Christianized China will be a China that is more immersed in the language of individual rights and freedoms tempered by the rule of law. That, I think, is a really strange statement to say. Not only for its direct implication, but even in their religious context. As other religious friends have pointed out, the Old Testament, which is the most legalistic of all, the Bible, is more about grace of God, and submitting yourself towards the grace of God. It's not necessarily about rule of law, as there's nothing in the Bible necessarily saying that you have to be in the rule of law and in command of earth. That is seen in the Christian doctrine, multiple Christian doctrines actually, as more of the devil's game and as Satan's fallen world. With this continuing, it says also, which is a slightly baffling article, in places like Fuzhou in the early 20th century, where Christianity enjoyed healthy growth, Protestants believed that China's salvation would come through the agency of Christianity. As China scholar Wen Jiabao writes of these Protestants, they envisioned a strong and confident China, rejuvenated through Christianity, built upon a uplifted citizenry educated to moral duty of patriotism, taking its place comfortably in a world community of nation-states progressing towards a bright future. It's the same vision that have the second hold Chinese Christians. It means that Christianity is primarily seen as a way to make China stronger and better. It ultimately serves the interests of nationalism. China Source also says on this point in 2022, in the special circumstances of Chinese politics, culture, and society, On the topic of cross-cultural mission, how can missionaries respect the nationality, culture, and living habits of people in different cultural situations, rather than dominating others with their own culture, ideology, and values? These basic attitudes and values may be different from Caesarization of religions implemented by the current government, but just as the word becomes flesh, Christ's church ought to imitate him and enter different cultural groups with an attitude of humility, ministering to others with a servant. This is followed by, although the missionary movement of the Chinese church is experiencing great restrictions and challenges, just as Paul was bold to preach the word of the kingdom of God and teach the things of the Lord Jesus in a restricted and imprisoned environment, no one forbade him to do so. Acts 28:31. I deeply believe that more the church is difficult in circumstances, the more experiences the grace of the power of God, which shows a new attitude and confidence of this version of Chinese Christianity. Even addressing this, something of keynote is understand that Christianity being monolithic, something that would reject critical Chinese cultural practices, ancestor honoring was practiced back then, even in the years of 1600 AD, even to this day. Christianity, alongside the Silk Road, wanted an inroad back then. The attempts to try and convert Chinese people to Christianity failed, resulting in the government expelling later, as Christianity was actively trying to compete with the Chinese state and imperial power. The extreme nature of Christianity in the time compared to the Chinese religious values made the inroads of Christianity harder. Thus was the case of the gods, which served people and people respected the God versus the God as the divine and supreme being. Reverence ancestors, respect for unity and state, and support for the imperial line is what kept China strong back then. And what was forgotten by the missionaries is that the factoring and saying that ancestor honoring is bad and submission to the one God is good. Another major factor here is the requirement that under folk religion within Chinese culture is a model of paying attention to deeds and making sure it is of high quality and good deeds, thus having an afterlife or a higher position where you came from. In short, in my interpretation, of course, because I'm actually not Chinese, as many people understand, I had to learn this. Chinese religious practice was secular in comparison to what was then an extremist religion, and the battle between influence of Christianity and China was destined to fail. So when in 1845 AD, when the state had enough and expelled and seized assets, it was no major surprise. This source here does actually say something about it, which is basically what we had to work off in the first place. Then figure out from there. Foreign missions. Christian missionaries from the West began to enter China and the 7th century to preach and spread their faith, build churches and convert the Chinese. Although they increased their influence slowly, they were finally expelled from China because of changes in political circumstances, as well as the antagonism and fears stimulated by a generally looked upon Christianity as foreign. And though its indirect influence in China was substantial, it never at any time appealed to any significant portion of the population. Both Buddhism and Islam were more successful in China. For basic outline, you can speed up as to get keynotes to look for if you want to research. This is a source for you, will be in the description. Given the background and eventual betrayal of China by the Republic of China under Chiang Kai-shek, reaching its peak post-World War II, 1949 made a new order and formal national policy on religion. Actual policy at first was awkward, given the Christian spot to the nationalist government right-wing agenda. So in 1949, there wasn't really a situation that was amicable for a healthy relation between Christianity and the then new national government. Actual policy started being healthier in the former opening up era. It then rose to what some call a honeymoon period in 2006 and in 2016, depending on who you talk to. Modern policy now is following the 2017 guidelines, which is more often where the woes of those who accuse China come from. The 2005 reforms notably added some interesting notes. The reforms said such commentary as Article 4. All bodies shall adhere to the principle of independence and self-governance. Religious bodies, sites for religious activities and religious affairs are not subject to any foreign domination. Religious bodies, sites for religious activities and religious personnel may develop external exchange on the basis of friendship and equality. All other exchange organizations of individuals shall not accept any foreign conditions in external cooperation or exchange in economic, cultural, or other fields. Most importantly, in the 2025 regulations was, no organizations may compel individuals, citizens, to believe in or not believe in any religion, nor may they discriminate against people who believe in any religion, hereinafter referred to as religious people, or citizens who don't believe in any religion, hereinafter referred to as non-religious citizens, which in and of itself was the foundation of a secular state. As for why some would say this falls fine under the rules around religious property, where it says the following commentary, Article 30. The land legally used by a religious body or site for activities, the house, structures, and facilities legally owned or used by such body or site and its other legal property, and proceeds therefore arbitered by law. No organization or individual may encroach upon, loot, property divide up, property damage, or illegally seal up, empower to freeze, confine, or dispose of legal property of a religious body for activities. It goes down further to say in Article 34, let me just highlight it for those who are watching. A religious body or site for activities may operate public undertakings according to law, and their proceeds and other lawful income therefore shall be subject to financial and county management and be used for the activities that are consummate with the purpose of religious body for site of public undertakings. And then there's Article 37. In case of cancellation or resolution of termination of a religious body or site religious activities, the property therefore shall be liquidated, and the property remaining under the liquidation shall be used for the undertaking that are commensurate with the purpose of the religious body or the site for religious activities. So, in the 2005 reforms, there was, of course, a step towards secular policy. That is in line with Chinese law, but the religious property was also protected under Chinese state, with the condition of not being evangelical. I could only cover so much in this law, so if this interests you, any of this, I will be linking the whole entire list in the description. The full list I will be put in there, so feel free to read it if you wish. With everything now proceeded, what was said in part 1 paired with information added on here, something written in 2001 titled China's Religious Retrospective and Prospect, which was a speech conducted by the Chinese politician Ye Xiaowen, who held the post of Director of the Bureau of Religious Affairs from 1995 to 1998, taking the post of Director of the State Administration of Religious Affairs between the years of 1998 and 2009. From 2009, Ye took the position until 2016 within the Party Secretary of the Central Institute of Socialism. In his address in 2001, he said, when he was Director of State Administration, is called Connect the Dots, he said, Christianity had long-standing factors in shaping Western society and culture, but had a rough time adjusting in China during the reign of Emperor Kangxi of Qing Dynasty. A controversy of rites erupted, the popes forbidding Chinese Catholics to venerate Confucius. And ancestors led to a century of ban for their religion in China. Why is that? Being both foreign religions, Christianity could not take root in China, but Buddhism could. It is the words of Professor Pan Wuzongdan. So I don't pronounce that correctly, but so be it. This is all because of the agreement with the soil. The plant can grow and prosper naturally if it can benefit from the soul. It is not just that Christianity in itself is a curse, but this is merely to say that the seed, that good seed at that can still bear ominous fruits if it fails to suit the soil it is grown in. What he continued to say was, thanks to the democratic reform of the new independence in church administration, Chinese religion stopped being an appendage of imperialism or tools in the hands of formal class. That means the formal class, the Kuomintang and the warlords. Instead, they were restored to their original colour, following their foundational beliefs, keeping their distinctive institutions and rituals, and having the capability to independently carry out normal religious activities. They became genuine embodiment of godly love and carriers of traditional cultures. The Protestant Catholic churches, having removed their foreignness tag, became genuine Chinese institutions. China declared for the first time as to religious organizations and religious affairs would henceforth be subject to no foreign domination and control, having abolished patriarchal feudalism and established feudal superstitions from its traditional religions. China declared that no one shall use religion to carry out activities that undermine public order, impair the health of citizens, and hamper the educational system of the state. These two statements, together with the principle of freedom and religious belief, were written into China's constitution. In the speech, National Conference on the Front Work in 1993, President Jiang Zemin said, "The reforms we carried out in the country's religious system, removing the imperialist manipulation and control in the Catholic and Protestant churches and starting independent administration of church affairs, and removing feudal oppression and exploitation in Buddhist and Islamic establishments, were entirely necessary and justified. They enabled China's religion." In the 2001 example of a monk was mentioned. The question of people's minds is this: can New China, whose ruling Communist Party does not believe in any religion, can have new society was created, whose mainstream ideology cannot possibly be any religion, accommodate religion and treat it well? With misgivings and misunderstandings, some religious personages left for overseas in the early years of liberation. Some of these people, I must say, were of outstanding quality and integrity, and they have had important contributions to the development of religion and culture overseas. Yet the majority prefer to stay on their homeland. Master Yuan Yin, for example, had received air ticket with advice for quick departure on the eve of liberation. He said, "Do I have no idea whether the communists would abolish religion or not. I'm clear about one thing: I'm a Chinese monk, and I love my country." He decided to wait and see. And finally, towards the halfway point, this is the final extract from this source, because it's quite a long document. It's very interesting, but very long. According to dialectical materialism, matter is primary, and in that sense, it runs counter to the idealism advocated by religion. Yet, by matter being primary, we mean that existence and objectivity is primary. This implies that existence, development, and changes of all objective matters follows the inherent laws, and any outside interference with the objective existence, inherent laws, or handling of complicated questions in simplest ways is therefore harmful. Religion is an objective social phenomenon and develops according to objective laws. To respect freedom of religious beliefs is respect objective existence, objective process, and objective law. In this sense, our advocacy of dialectical materialism does not run counter to our respect for freedom of religious belief. The question is then whether or not we should recognize religion's long-term objective existence in this social society. The question looks simple in appearance, but it determines our basic policy orientation. It is a question that we have given a lot of thought and constant review. In 1952, a report entitled "Summary of the Main Experience of the Party Work Amongst Ethnic Minorities in the Past 2 Years" was issued by central government, which said some comrades in certain areas have committed in rash advance because of their failure to appreciate long-term ethical and international standard of religions in ethnic minority areas. In 1957, while speaking at a meeting of the National People's Congress, Premier Zhou Enlai said that religion will exist for a long time. What we should worry about is not whether religion will continue to exist, but whether our ethnic minorities will continue to... Sorry, that got cut off for some stupid reason. I will continue. What we should worry about is not whether religion will continue to exist, but whether our ethnic minorities will prosper. Again, I did extract only as full speech given to the Chung College of Chinese University of Hong Kong. It's once more in description because it's, again, quite long. It's very fascinating if you're into that sort of thing, but long. In this speech, you saw me show that was done for 2005 reforms. And next I'll cover what is the most relevant law in this context, and what will be most catalyst for the third part, the 2017 revision. This will be finishing off the part without much further word. I'll just cover the law, then end the video for now. Let's cover what exactly the 2017 reform is. A few of the shorter laws goes as follows. Article 3. The management of all religious affairs upholds the principle of protecting what is lawful, but prohibiting what is unlawful. suppressing extremism and resisting infiltration and fighting crime. Sorry, let me get this correct. Yeah. Article 4 has changed a little bit, or what I noticed at least. If it didn't change and it's exactly the same, just tell me if you know more about change law than me. Article 4 changed a little bit by saying, religious groups, religious schools, religious activity sites, and religious citizens shall abide by the constitutional laws, regulations and rules, practice and core socialist values, and preserve the unification of the country, ethnic unity, religious harmony and social stability. Religion must not be used by any individual or organisation to engage in activities that endanger national security, disrupt public order, impair the health of citizens, or obstruct the state educational system, as well as other activities that harm state or social public interests or citizens' lawful rights and interests, and other such illegal activities. Individuals and organisations must not create contradictions and conflicts between different religions, within a single religion, or between religious and non-religious citizens, must not advocate, support or fund religious extremism, and must not use religion to undermine ethnic unity, divide the nation, or carry out terrorist activities. Article 5, I think, is actually quite important because it may sound weird at first, but if you watch part 1 properly, you can understand the context of what was going on, and actually research more into it, you understand why this is about. All religions shall adhere to the principle of independence and self-governance. Religious groups, religious schools, and religious activity sites and religious affairs are not to be controlled by foreign forces. Religious bodies, schools, activity sites, and professionals are to develop external exchange on the basis of mutual respect, equality, and friendship. Other organizations must not accept any religious condition in external cooperation or exchange in economic, cultural, or other. Article 49. Article 50 is also quite interesting of a inclusion here. Religious groups, schools, activity sites, and following laws and relevant state provisions to manage and use assets that they lawfully occupy, that are collectively owned assets belong to the state, and enjoy ownership or of property rights with regards to other lawful assets in the course of law. Article 50 adds on to this by saying, religious groups, schools, and other activities and lawful use of land or use of business, building structures and facilities, as well as other lawful assets, are proceeds protected by law. Basically, it's the saying protection clause. Of course, though, like any regulation on law that protects, there comes with a condition. In this case, it starts more notably for me with Article 69 and 70. 69. Where a religion activity is established without authorization, or where a religious activity sites that had its registration revoked or registration certificate cancelled continues to carry out religious activities, or where a school is established for authorization, the Religious Affairs Department, together with the relevant departments, are to shut it down and confiscate unlawful gains or illegal assets, if any. Where the unlawful gains or illegal assets cannot be determined, a fine of up to 50,000 yuan is imposed. The illegal houses or structures, if any, shall be disposed of by the planning construction departments in accordance with law. And where there is conduct in violation of public security management, a public security administrator sanction will be imposed in accordance with law. I'm sure I can read the second half of it. So I'm not going to read every single line of every single law. There's a key relevance. Article 70, where, without authorization, religious citizens are organising to leave the mainland to partake in religious trainings, meetings, the Hajj, or other activities or religious education and training is carried out without authorization. The Religious Affairs Department, together with the relevant department, in order to discontinue the activities, may impose a concurrent fine between 20,000 and 200,000 yuan, and is confiscate any unlawful gains, if any, where a crime constituted criminally responsible if pursued in accordance with law. Paired with Article 71, which states, where conditions are provided for unlawful activities, religious activities and religious affairs department are to give warnings and take the unlawful gains or legal assets, if any. Where the circumstances are serious, the fine between 20,000 and 200,000 yuan are imposed. Where there are illegal buildings, structures, they are to be disposed of by planning construction, yada yada yada. This all leads on to the question: These laws are here, which some say would be a suppression, but I have to ask, is it unfair? Or just a case of secular respect in regards to the very long history regarding religion in China? Because what I've been thinking right now is that it's a lot of power for one group to have, but it is also a subsection, which is Article 5. So Article 75 and 76. Article 75. Where anyone is dissatisfied with religious actions taken by the Religious Affairs Department, they may lawfully apply for a reconsideration. Where dissatisfied with the decision of administrative reconsideration, they may lawfully raise an administrative lawsuit. Where this is an interesting case because in Article 76 also says religious exchanges between the mainland and Hong Kong SAR, Macau SAR, and Taiwan are handled in accordance with relevant laws, administrative regulations, and relevant national provisions, which is to say that much like other basic laws and so on, it's managed by other alternate means. This is all while Article 2 is still in place, which is citizens have the freedom of religious belief. No organization or individual may compel citizens to believe or not believe in any religion, nor will they discriminate against citizens who believe in any religion therein referred to citizens. Yada yada yada. This is then let's jump to Article 49. So let's type in 49. Religious groups, schools, and activities sites following laws and relevant state provisions to manage and use assets that lawfully occupy, state enjoy ownership and property rights with regards to lawful assets in accordance with law. That says that despite everything, some may say, there's multiple laws within this regulation to actually protect within law the rights of religion. A counterbalance to Article 49 is Article 64, where it says, where there are situations, of course, on large scale religious activities that endanger national security or public safety that seriously undermine public order, the relevant departments are to hand and give punishments in accordance with laws and regulations, where the primary organizing religious groups, temple, church bears responsibility. The registration management organ shall order them to withdraw and change principal results of people, and where circumstances are serious, revoke certificates. Where large-scale religious activities are organised without authorization, the Religious Affairs Department, together with the relevant departments, that order stopped, or order a concurrent fine of 100,000 and 300,000 yuan. And where that unlawful gains as illegal assets, confiscate them of those where large-scale religious activities are organised, authorization by religious groups or activity sites, associations, management. Organs may order withdraw and change the direct. To finish off the section regarding the 2017 reforms, Article 52, 53, and 54 play a major role. Article 52 is religious groups, schools, and activities sites are non-profit organizations. Their assets and income shall be used in activities consistent with their religious purpose and in purpose of public interest. Charitable matters, they must not be distributed. Organizations and individuals that give donations for the construction of religious activities do not enjoy ownership or usage rights in the religious activity sites and must not receive economic benefits from the religious activity sites. It is prohibited to invest in or contact management of religious activity sites in large-scale outdoor religious statuses, and is prohibited to commercial promotions in the name of religions. Then there's Article 54. The houses and structures used for religious activities by activity sites, as well as their accessory houses lived in by religious professionals, must not be transferred, mortgaged, or used as investments in any kind. What does all this mean then? You may think that I just gave you a bunch of laws, but I'll actually explain what I mean by everything now. In general, I'd say the 2017 regulations, which came into effect in 2018, actually is quite a progressive thing overall. Of course, there's some restrictions, and would be, in a laissez-faire sense, not really acceptable, but at the same time, religion itself can't be taken too lightly at the same time. The comments from multiple figures in all of this said some really good points regarding multiple things, and I think they should not be forgotten or undermined. The key note to understand about all of this is it's a balancing act. To give too much freedom to religion is to allow a potential instability to occur to give them power. But at the same time, if you want true secularism, religion can't be allowed to get absolute power. So it comes down to balance. And again, I covered the 2017 regulations for a clear reason, which would be a direct link to the next part of all of this, which would be the accusations itself. And thank you for watching.